Let's talk about adding value and the 4 guidelines that we have to add value to others. Let's look at the first one. We add value to someone simply by valuing them. In other words, when I come to you and I see that you're important, I respect you as a person, I add value to you, what that does, we become a person that adds value. We add value to others when we value them. If you want to add value to someone here, value them. In other words, make them important to you. Invest in them, whatever. That's one way that we can add value to others. Okay? When a person moves into a position of authority, he or she gives up the right to abuse people. If you get into a position of leadership or authority and you abuse people, you are misusing your position. Because being a leader with authority means you are going to add value to someone, not abuse them. Otherwise, you're just a manager and you're working for a thing, you're not working for people. Your life is, you might be able to make the most of one thing. Maybe you can produce something. But you're not going to impact someone as a true leader. When a person moves into the position of authority, he gives up the right to abuse people. Okay? That's a tough one, isn't it? Because most of us think when we have a title, we can talk down to them. We can minimize them. We add value to others when we truly value others. You can't add value if you don't value someone. If you want to add value, you have to value the person you're adding. They have to become valuable to you. Effective leaders go beyond not just harming other people. You not only give up the right to abuse people as a leader. If you're going to say I'm a leader, you give up the right to abuse people. But that's only the first half of that sentence. If you say I'm a leader, then you have to do what? If you're going to be effective, you intentionally help other people. You don't help by chance. You don't go, did I help someone today? Oh yeah, I did. No, you intentionally organize your life. It's in your thought process. It's in your daily mindset. Today I'm going to help someone. That's the responsibility of a leader. It's not, the leader doesn't just have responsibility not to do something, they have a responsibility to do something. It's so important, otherwise you just become a hireling. In other words, you're only there for money, and that really is not the best way for mankind to live. We're to live to add value because we want God to add value to our life, but for sure, what we sow, we reap. People that say, God bless me, but they never bless anyone, I don't even know if God hears that prayer. I don't know if God hears the blessed be prayer unless we've blessed others. I know He doesn't hear the forgive me prayer. You can't be forgiven until you forgive others. If you've done something lousy and you want to say sorry, then forgive somebody else that maybe has bothered you. Because that opens the door then for forgiveness to flow to you. If we're going to do that, if we're going to add value, then and people become valuable to us, we have to demonstrate that we value someone and the person knows that they're being valued. If you say, I value everybody, but nobody knows you value them, are you really adding value to their life? Can people be added to and not even be aware? Maybe some. But generally people, what's that saying? No one cares how much you love them until they know how much you care. What?
People don't care how much you know until they know how much
You care. Thank you. Number, let's see what's here for you. I think one of the things that's hardest for us because we live in sometimes villages are filled with rich people. I'm not criticizing village life. I'm saying one of the good things in a village is there's many people to minister to, that you can add value to. One of the bad things is there's so many people that need something, you can lose sight of that. In other words, in order for us to survive walking to the store, we have to go by the widow, we have to go by the child who's crying, we have to go by people suffering so we can go to the store to buy something. And if we don't intentionally add value to people and we don't have the mindset, our heart becomes harder. Our heart becomes calloused, okay? Because there's so much problems, we become calloused to problems. But we can't do that. We have to become like God. The Bible says God so loved the world, not just half, not just those who would say yes. He loved the whole world. He is so tender in his heart. The Bible says he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. Have you ever seen somebody die and they were just kind of like bad people say, they got what they deserve. The world's going to be a better place. Or they'll get their reward someday. In other words, we take pleasure in thinking that that person's going to get paid back for all their bad things. But for God, he takes no pleasure in the death of wicked people. Sometimes everyone's going to die, but sometimes they die early, sometimes they get judgment. But it's not because of pleasure. It's because of the system of justice. Okay? We need to make sure that as we live our life, even in this village where there's all kinds of problems surrounding us, we need to make sure that we don't become hardened to the situation. Not easy though. I mean, it's not easy. One of the things you see when a foreign visitor comes, they come and they see the situation around here. And their hearts go out and they want to give and they want to give. Their hearts are still soft. But what happens though to us? Do our hearts have the same level of compassion? Maybe we don't have all the capacities, but do we operate at the same level that we see visitors operate at when they come for the first time? I've got a lot of people that come to our evangelism when we have visitors because they look at it as an opportunity to get money. Because when visitors come, their hearts break over the struggles we have, and they're open. But what happens to us when we walk down the same path that the visitor walks down and the visitor's heart goes out to them people? What happens? Does our heart still go out? You're a teacher. Does your heart go out to the worst student the same as it goes out to the best student? I don't know. For me, when I see someone struggling, you know what I told her? I did this with our Bible school. Some of you heard me give this example. We were in class and I was watching our students in Bible school group up together. And the bright ones all wanted to study together. The ones that were struggling, okay, you can sit here. So what I did is I said, this next exam, what we're going to do is, because some of you aren't your brother's keeper, everyone is going to get the same marks. So if you who are so bright don't extend a hand to bring up the one that's weak, we're going to average and everybody's going to get the average. Now that's not something I recommend because it takes away competition. It takes away reward, you know. But it sure shook up our students. They said, that's not fair. But it's also not fair that we who have don't help those who don't have. Don't let the environment harden your heart to see what's around you. Let me get to number 2. One thing, remember that leadership is always about people. It's never about project. Management is about project. Leadership is about people. We add value to others when we make ourselves more valuable to others. So, I've told this before too. When I first came here, I came here with a bachelor's degree. Okay? And I started teaching everything I knew. We started out with our first books, and I taught our first books so I could bring up other bachelors. But the problem was the bachelors I brought up were hungry, so guess what I had to do? I had to study to get my master's. I mean, we're talking another 5, 10, 12 years of studying. But the master's guys, many of them were hungry, weren't they? They didn't want to stop at master's, so guess what I had to do? I had to get my doctorate so that I could then add value to them. By the way, our doctorate class was so amazing. I remember we took our doctorate class up to Kalagala. We put them in boats. We crossed the Sisibo. We went and did evangelism, and some of them had never done evangelism. Can you imagine a pastor with a doctorate that has never done evangelism? They just build a big building with good sound and they expect people to automatically come. But we had practicals in doctorate class, and I think I was a crazy doctorate teacher. But I wanted to add value. I wanted it to be there. We add value to others when we make ourselves more valuable to others, for others. The whole idea of adding value to other people depends on the idea that you have something to give. Okay? That you can add to them. It's not just saying I'm going to add value for no reason. Some of us don't have much. Some of us just have a smile. But that doesn't mean you can't add more to your backpack of value that you can give to people. What do you have to give to others? You can't give something you don't possess. If you don't possess it, you can't give it. But for sure, you don't have it until you can give it. You don't have compassion until you give compassion. Compassion comes as you give it. Jesus and the disciples went to have a holiday. They were going to the mountain retreat. But guess what? People followed them on the way to the mountain. They say it was 5,000 men plus women and children followed them on their way to their holiday, to their retreat to Prayer Mountain. And what happened? The Bible says Jesus had compassion on them. Okay? And he began to minister on their vacation. Now the disciples were going day 1, okay Jesus. Day 2, okay Jesus. Day 3, wait a minute. People are hungry, Jesus. We better send them. Jesus said, well, feed them. What did they say? It would cost money. When they saw the multitude, what did they see? Expense, right? Cost. Too much. More than we have. We can't, let's send them away so they can go to town. Send them away. Jesus moved with compassion. The disciples moved by money. What it would cost them. They were not yet ready to be leaders, were they? In fact, they were going to go through some real trials coming up. What is it that moves you? When you see that need, are you moved by I don't have, or are you moved by what can I do? Many people are moved by I don't have. They see something, I don't have. They think, I can't. They're not moved by what can I do. Is there anything that I can do that will help? If you have skills, you gain them through study and practice. If you have opportunity to give, you acquire that by hard work. If you possess wisdom that you can add value to others, You gained it by examining the experiences you've had, and you've gained wisdom from your life. The more intentional you have been about growing yourself, okay, the more you'll have to give others. If you're only in this class, okay, you're young. Maybe you don't have a lot of sight. But if you're only here for what you can get, you're missing the big part. If you're here because it's going to help you to give more, you're beginning to see true leadership. You don't just add value for your own benefit, though it will benefit you. You add value so that you have something to give. I hope most of you are here because you want to be here, not because someone made you. I hope eventually, if someone had made you, eventually you'll be here because now you want to be here. You're not waiting for someone to wake you up to tell you what to do, but you're coming now because you want. There's some people that could have been here, but because they really didn't want it, they avoided it. Some of you are here because you want. Some of you are here because you have to. Whatever the case, I'm glad you're here, okay? I'm not saying go if you don't want to be here. I'm glad you're here, but I'm hoping that eventually you'll all be here because you want to be here. Number 3, we add value to others when we know and relate to what others value. For me to add value to you, I have to know what it is that you value. Sometimes I ask you tough questions because I want to know you. I want to know what's your dream, what's your purpose, what's your problem. If I ask you how is school, it's really not a greeting, like, oh, how's school? Fine, oh, good, fine. If I want to know how you're doing in school, why do I ask? Because if there's any lack, how can I help? Some of you even know that when I've asked you that in the past, how is school, I've also said, what's your struggle? I don't have books. And so it goes beyond tuition, right? I say, can we get the book in locally here? Yes, it's in the bookshop. Okay, let's go buy that book. Let's bring it to the base, for example. And let's have it available for students. Are you with me? We add value. We don't just chit-chat to talk. We have to get out of we have to get away from the greeting mode and get into the concern mode. Use your greeting for more than just hello. Use your greeting to discover how you can add value, because you find what's valuable to others. Honestly, most people love to talk about themselves. They don't mind sharing. They don't mind saying, you know at home, oh, you know Pastor Bill, oh, you know school. They want to talk. But you can find out about them by asking. Okay? And then as they grow, they raise up, then they begin to ask you how you're doing. If someone says, Pastor Bill, how are you? And I say, almost fair. They go, oh, sorry. And that's all they care. Oh, sorry. They don't say, oh, what can I do? Can I pray for you? Can I make you coffee? You know what I'm saying? They ask how you are, and they don't really care how you are. And if you say, they don't even find out what the issue is. So what have we got in the habit of doing when someone says, how are you? What do you say? I'm fine. Why? Because you know they don't care anyhow. So now we have a society and a culture in our ministry and probably everywhere that asks how you are but don't care how you are, because we never... Why bother telling you my problem when I know you don't? You're just going to say sorry. Saying sorry isn't really care. Okay? It's polite, but it really is not compassion. When Jesus had compassion on the multitude, it says he was moved. That means he did something about how he felt. Compassion that has no motion is not compassion, it's just a feeling. It's sympathy. I don't want to be a sympathizer, I want to be a compassionate person. Because I can say sorry all day and it costs me nothing but a little bit of air. I want to go beyond sorry to doing. Adding value then through service. We add value through, like today we're trying to add value through training. Others may add value by giving opportunity. Okay? Adding value through service doesn't just benefit the people that are being served. It allows the leader to experience something too. If you think adding value costs too much, then you don't realize the benefit of being a leader who adds value. First of all, there is a sense of fulfillment when you lead other people. As we lead, and we lead in service, it gives us the ability to perform significant, let's call them acts or significant activities as a leader. When you're a leader, you can then direct things that will be done that are bigger than could be done just by one person. When you lead and you have people that you influence, suddenly whatever you put your hand to has the pressure of many. There's a company in the US, it's called Chick-fil-A, and they serve chicken sandwiches. Very popular, very amazing. But they have a standard. The owner, CEO, Christian, born again. And how many of you have picked up on that little phrase that I have when we're told to do something, we say, "It's my pleasure." Any of you heard that come from my lips or encouraged you to add that to your speech? That actually came from the business model of Chick-fil-A. When you go in and you order your sandwich, you say, "I'd like this," they're taught to say what? "It's my pleasure." If you're sitting at the table and you need a serviette or something, and you talk to a worker, they go, "It's my pleasure." You never see them roll their eyes like, "Can't you see I'm busy?" You know what I'm saying? There's this mindset of service that every worker, they don't just learn how to work, but they learn how to serve so that they can be a future leader. Leadership, when it has the right motive, brings joy to the leader. The other thing that a leader can experience, they can experience team building. Team building. Not just a group of workers. It's not just like prisoners that have to go dig because they're in prison. That's not a great motivation. The truth is a good leader learns what it takes to build a team. Now, we're doing 21 Laws of Leadership. We also have another book, the 17 Laws of Teamwork. Okay? How do you make teams? How do you get more done when you combine than you can alone? The attitude, a good leader can see the attitude of service within the team. One of the things I think I enjoy and like is that, like, we're here today as a team. We're here to study, but we also know that we're going to add value to the ground here afterwards. And what'll be interesting to see is if we work as a team or if we work as avoiders or if we work as chit-chat. There's some people that I'd rather not have on a team because all they do is they try to start conversations and distract the team from actually getting the work done that needs to get done. On the other hand, it's not that chit-chat is bad. A lot of times I see that with cooks. You should study cooks sometimes. They can talk like crazy and still get work done. Most, not all. I can't multitask good. If I start talking, I put my hands down and I have to talk. Some people can talk and work at the same time. I'm not good at it, so. The best place, though, for a leader isn't always in the top position. You would think a leader would want to be at the top. It isn't the most prominent or powerful place that is the best place for the leader. It's the place where he or she can serve the best and add the most value to other people. So, as the president, some might say I'm at the top, okay? But when it comes to getting work done, in ministry done, in Prepare the Way ministry, let's take something practical like keeping our gardens producing food. Me being at the top doesn't do a lot for that, does it? The person then that can influence the workers to see them get something done, even though they're not at the very top, they still, in their leadership, it's more important for them to do what? To lead at the level of impact, where something can be done, where service can be done. That's why being at the top isn't always the most important part of an organization's vision. Sometimes being on the top means you have to do a lot of talking and stuff, and you don't get to get your hands on. When I grew up in the workplace as a mechanic. Before I became a mechanic, I fixed cars at my house. My garage, my driveway, I always had 6, 7 cars in it. I think my neighbors might have hated me because it looked like the place where you have old cars. But I love working with my hands. I'm the kind of guy that if I can fix something, I feel good. And so, as I was doing that, it was so joyous. But the problem is when you get good at something, it also brings success. And as I became more and more successful, more people came to get their cars fixed than I could manage. I worked for about 9 years for another repair garage, and I was happy there because I was doing what I liked, which is fixing cars. But there came a day when there was a change in the leadership and things drastically changed, and I had to say bye. I remember when I left, I didn't tell one of my customers where I was going. I didn't take any list of clients. I left, and I left everything there. And I went and opened my own garage, and I really enjoyed that a lot. But over time, I had to have 2, 3, 4, 5 mechanics, workers, secretary, whatever. And I found out that being at the top kept me away from the thing I loved, which was fixing cars. And so what happened then? I spent all of my time administrating. When I first came to Uganda, I was doing conferences, teaching, leading, hands-on work. But as the ministry grew here, guess what? Now some days I'll not even get out of my sitting room because I've got appointment after appointment after appointment. People come. And for me, it's okay because I know that I'm impacting, but it's not necessarily what I like to do. That's why, like teaching this class, I love it because I get to do hands-on. But just doing management, just being at the top, sometimes it pulls you away from the thing you love. And even though Jesus was the rabbi, he still loved to go and heal. You know, he loved to encourage people. Though he did spend a lot of time mentoring. Even the early disciples, when they were in charge of raising up the next generation, they still went to the temple and prayed, right? They still taught, they still fellowshiped, they still got their hands on things. As leaders, we need to be involved in service, in serving other people. Albert Einstein, he was a genius. Okay, I think was he the one that discovered the law of relativity? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Was he that? Anyhow, we know him because of his work in physics, I guess you could say. But the thing that he said for himself, he says, only a life lived in the service of others is worth living. He got a Nobel Peace Prize. He was awarded the highest private award that can be given. Nobel Peace Prize isn't government awarded. It's leaders who privately award this. It's not impacted by government. My weakness is smoke. When I'm around smoke, I don't know why. All right, let's move on a little bit, because what we want to do is, how do you add value to someone's life? Now, let's not look at the specifics, but adding value to a life has an outcome. I don't know if you'll just guess what this is, so I'm going to just say it, okay? Adding value changes lives. What we're trying to do is change lives. Change a life, improve a life, change a life. As a leader, because we are not leading for position, we're leading by what? Influence. And we gain influence by doing what? Creating relationships. Has anybody worked on that a little bit? Because that was last week when we started that idea. Have any of you tried to build on a relationship? Now maybe some of you are automatically relationship builders. Okay? I won't make you give a testimony. I just want to, is anybody practicing what we're doing? Yeah.
Yes.
We add value to others when we do things that God values. Do you know what God values in people? Do you know what God values in your neighbor? That takes some prayer. That takes some insight. That takes effort if I'm going to know what God sees in you that is valuable to Him. It doesn't come automatically. And it's not always the same thing that I see naturally. God sometimes sees things, and He always sees things in what He values in other people. It's His nature. He sees and He values enough that it gives His love. It gives His care. It gives His word. He values us so much, He even speaks to us when we're not listening. He values. If we're going to be a good leader, and we're gonna do it the right way, we have to add value. How? By knowing what God values in the people you lead. That takes effort to know that. You have to know your audience. When a preacher comes in, have you ever seen preachers, they come in and they tell a joke or two at the beginning? You might say, oh, that's just icebreakers or whatever. But the truth is what? Many times the leader will do that so he can look at people before he starts preaching. He has a moment to hear what God is thinking about what those people need. You can do it other ways. You can tell a story. You can have a little something before you get into, go farther. But he finds out. Even Jesus, when he met the woman at the well, conversation, right? It took some minutes of talking until finally she said, what? This man's a prophet, right? He broke into her life, found out what her problem was, and then he knew what the Father wanted from people in Samaria. And he picked someone that everybody knew, that everybody, when she spoke, somehow she had authority. Maybe her current boyfriend was the mayor. I don't know who she was with, but it wasn't her husband. But somehow she was with someone that when she went into the village, the whole village came out to hear. So he knew that what? He knew what was valuable to her. For her it was religion, tradition, what? But he came and he met that need. And they believed. Do you know what God values in your neighbor? Not just generally. I know he loves your soul. Let's be soul winners. Let's be soul winners. But what are you winning a soul for? Is it just because of hell? Does God save you just so you don't go to hell? We're called according to His purposes. Are you with me? God doesn't take pleasure in the death of wicked people because you know what their outcome's going to be. But that He loves you, first of all, God never even created hell for you. In His mind, when He made humans, He never had the idea that there's going to be a punishment. He didn't make a place of punishment for people. The only reason we go there is when we take the side of Satan and his angels. When we take their side, then we go with the people where we have allegiance to. Know what God values in your neighbor.